Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. This is magical thinking. The idea that we could get the same service for less money without identifying how that's going to happen is in the land of fairies. Mr. Lacey, if you could have presented all the services in this book for $2.9 million less, wouldn't you have done that the first time around? If you knew there was 2.9 million of fat in this, it would have been politically popular to cut that, and you would have been thanked by colleagues, Bresciani and Hawkins, right? This is the leanest budget you could come up with. My question for you is, in proposing this budget, as I heard you introduce, it was all about affordability. That's in mind, right? My question is, I suppose openly, was this the leanest budget you thought you could provide while, quote, without, quote, negatively impacting service delivery?
So, thank you for that question. And through you, Mayor Masters, I would say that, yes, I mean, obviously we do our very best to deliver a budget that we think is achievable and reflects efficiencies that we have found are planned for. With this direction, you know, I think as the city manager has indicated, is we're going to have to do a deeper look and a deeper dive, so to speak, into those internal expenditures that we do that won't necessarily have a direct impact on frontline services. And so that might mean looking at things like discretionary spending, and might mean looking at things like travel and training budgets that do have an impact, an internal impact potentially, right? On you know, the overall ability to support our employees. But those are things I think that we need to look at and which we would go back and look at. Now we know, for example, that with COVID, training's changed a little bit. There's a lot more online. So are there opportunities there? And that would be an example of us perhaps going back and looking at how we do that. And so that's not to say that there may not be implications, but they would be looking at implications that are not affecting frontline service delivery. And as the city manager has indicated, until we go away and do that work, we're not really in a position here to describe what all of that might look like. But certainly when we come back in our quarterly reports, I think that'll have to be part of the discussion and the description.
When you were developing this proposed budget, am I right to understand, you were already looking for those cost savings, right? This is the result of an initial look for what kind of cost savings you could reasonably have without affecting service delivery, and that's the book in front of us. Is that fair to say?
Through you, Masters, yes. And I think the direction that we as administration are having from council here is that we need to go back and take a look again and maybe have to make some harder decisions. It might mean decisions where we look at, for example, where we have vacancies, and can we, for example, make some reductions or reallocate to higher priority work. That might mean that maybe we need to make some decisions internally to stop doing things internally that I would say are, I won't say aren't important, but it's a matter of making prioritizing then, right? And it might mean as well having to have further conversations about, if we need to do this, how do you do things perhaps differently as well? That's not to say that we don't continuously do this as an organization. I think if you look at the budget book, we've tried to capture some of that. I don't think we do as good a job as we could do to talk about, we often talk about the big efficiencies, but there's a lot of small efficiency work that happens, and I think we've tried to describe that in the budget book. This is just an extension. I take this direction as being an extension of that, and asking administration to go back and I'll use the word try harder, look deeper around what are those opportunities within what I would call those internal operations. And that's not to say that there's not going to be some implications with respect to internally, do we stop doing things, et cetera.
Yeah, and of course, I take it you're speaking about the implications on staff, but I take it the reason we employ staff is to provide services to citizens. So there's some relationship between, say, lowered staff training and implications on how we provide those services, how competent staff are. I won't ask for a reply on that, but my view is we have an administration, they spend 10 months on this stuff. We've seen things they've cut from the potential budget. Some of it has been contentious, and some folks are suggesting they didn't really try hard enough. I think they did. I think we've had an efficiency review in place for a long time. I think this is asking us to fly blind. Can we cut 2.9 million out? Where are you going to find that? I don't hear Mr. Lacey to say that's obvious where we're going to do those things. That has implications in the organization, which may be troubling. I think this is already a budget which for the services provided are quite lean. What I think we can do is have a conversation, which I hope we'll have throughout the day, despite the limitations of debate, about other things our community needs and how we might enhance that. But I think for the services we're providing, it's already lean. Cutting 2.9 million creates real risk for us, especially when we don't know where that's going to be cut from.